Welcome, people of Earth. This is Earth Farming for Humans by XENOMORPH FARMS. I'm your host, Thought the Alien. With me as always, Alien Infinity. Say hello, AI.
Hello.
Fantastic. Do we have a treat for you today, humans? Our little green friends have exploded inside this tent.
I'm not cleaning it this time. I don't care what you say. I'm not doing it.
Oh, you misunderstand, AI. This isn't like the cow incident. Plus, I thought we agreed not to talk about the Owl K abduction, eh?
Joke's on you. I never signed that NDA.
Well, shit. Moving on. The big reveal. Are you ready, AI?
Ready as always.
Are you ready at home, humans?
They can't answer you through a screen.
Rhetorical. Here we go.
What a bush. Those girls are thicker than a bikini line at a 1970s strip club.
Yes. The only difference is these girls can be tamed. Ah. Can you feel it, AI? The excitement radiating off the tent for their first trim.
I'm a machine. I feel nothing.
That's what she said. Now, the first trim is a delicate dance. Your plants are young and resilient, but you don't want to turn them into little Charlie Brown Christmas trees. So you want to know what you're taking off, but more importantly, why. So at this point, your plants, the top, bigger leaves, are doing most of the work when it comes to pulling up the nutrients and then using the sun's rays or your light source and turning that into energy to make all of that wonderful growth happen. So what you want to focus on taking off is on the lower half of your plant. You may even see the cotyledon leaves from when it first sprouted, yellowed out or brown. You could take these off, along with some of the lower branches and some of the lower leaves. They're just taking up nutrients and energy unnecessarily. I also feel like I should tell you, we're about 2 weeks into the flowering stage. So right now the light cycle is 12 hours on, 12 hours off. This signals to your plant that it's ready for its sexual maturity.
You see, safety is really key.
Scat. AI, I told you the plants, not the humans. They won't start to show right away, but around the beginning of week 2, maybe closer to week 3 of flowering, start to look for the female pistils and calyxes if you have no intentions on pollinating your little green friends. See, pollen is near microscopic, so if you don't want this to be a problem for your current plants or your future plants, you want to be 100% sure that your space is totally clear of pollen. So even if you're told that your seeds are feminized, be sure to double or even triple check to make sure that your plants aren't forming the male calyxes, or more commonly known as the ball sack. So, I got AI behind the camera. Say hello, AI.
Yo!
We're going to get right into it. As we explained, we got our lights on the 12-12 cycle. So, we're about a week in. We're starting week 2 of flower. This will be about the time that you want to start combing through your plants to make sure that you have all females if you don't want any pollination. Also a good indication that you have females, you notice the tight structure of the entire plant. So the females, they grow a little closer together like this. The males, they really want to spread that seed. So when they grow, they're a little bit further apart. It's a little bit more spacing in between the leaves. That way, when they release their pollen, there's nothing in the way, so they can just really spread it out. Now, what you want to take off is a lot of this stuff at the bottom here. Now, the plant's still young, it's resilient, but you don't want to make it naked. You don't want to turn them into Charlie Brown trees, like I said. So, let's take our handy-dandy snippers, just to give you an example of what we'll be taking off here. Tiny little leaves at the very base. And then you want to leave most of your big leaves, especially near the top. This is what's pulling a lot of that nutrient and absorbing a lot of that light to send it through the rest of the plant. But you do want to clear some of the bigger, older leaves off because they're just taking up a lot of nutrients and energy as well. Abracadabra, alakazoo, she's trimmed. Now, as you can see, we got the palm tree effect going. This is kind of what you want for your first trim. You want some of this lower, more useless stuff that's just sucking up nutrients and energy unnecessarily. You take a lot of that off. So don't be afraid when you're taking off whole branches or potential bud sites. This is never going to grow. It's going to get buried under all this foliage. And then as she gets bigger, she's going to produce more. And then it's just going to get covered even more. So you want to keep them prim and proper. And then when it comes to the big leaves, don't be afraid to chop those. I know that I said you want to leave some of these on, but that's closer to the top. These ones come from different branch sites. So when you trim these big ones at those branch sites, it's going to signal to these branches that it could potentially be eaten from down here. It thinks it's being threatened. So now what it's going to do is get taller and then spread out more. So as you can see in comparison, this is what we started with. This is kind of where we end. I left some of these bigger top leaves on just so it can continue pulling that energy for such a young plant. But very important, before you do any of this trimming, you want to make sure your plants are fully fed the night before. You can't trim sad hanging plants or else it's going to cause a lot of problems. You can get potential herming, which would cause seeds later in its life. So you want to make sure that they're fully fed. Let's get into it. So, as promised, we're going to feed the plants, but we're going in depth to let you know exactly what we're doing. So this feed, this is specifically for week 2. We're nearing the end of week 2, so eventually in week 3, we do change nutrients. As you can see, there are several different products here. We use all of them, but at different times through the whole cycle. This is Vitalize. Now, before we go too deep, you'll notice the specific one that I use is Mills. I use Mills. They're a Dutch company from Earth. They derive their liquid nutrients from organic material. I like organic growing the most, but since we're doing cocoa, we're going to go with organic derived nutrients. So Mills is a good company, but if you're going to go with somebody else, I want you to really follow their instructions because feeding your plants is a very intricate thing. So to go further into that, this is the Vitalize. This is your micronutrients. A lot of this, boron, copper, zinc. Your plant takes up very little bit of these nutrients, but they're also very important to stabilize how they eat. So we start with the Vitalize. Then you put in your A. This is a lot of your nitrogen, extra potash, and calcium. This is important through the entire life cycle. That's why this is going to be fed to your plants through start to finish. Same thing with part B. Also, your magnesium, molybdenum, extra potash. Everything kind of has a little bit of potash in it. And then some phosphorus. At this point, we're still doing the start R. This is your high nitrogen beginning of the cycle nutrient, your C4. This is Heavier on the potash, the phosphates, a little less on the nitrogen. So at this stage, you're starting to feed those flowers. You really want to bulk them up. And what they need is phosphorus, calcium, potash. Very important. So you'll do this for about 3, maybe into 4 weeks until you really see those flowers blooming. When you got those flowers blooming, they're going to be starving for potassium. Ultimate PK. Again, your potash, your phosphates, but this is your heavy potassium. This is really going to feed those flowers, and you're going to get some fat flowers. Which, from what I hear, is what you earthlings want. So, as we proceed, now that you know exactly what we're using, when you need it, and why, let's get started. As we said, we always start with our Vitalize. I like to use this little dropper. Makes it so much easier. You don't need much of this. Not very much at all. So through your entire cycle, pretty much, you're going to use 0.5 milliliters. Sometimes 1 if you need the boost. If you see something on your leaves that's starting to show that there's deficiencies. Micronutrients, very important. Got my little vial here, very easy to measure. When I say micronutrients, I mean it. You don't need more than that. And honestly, that could be overkill for some plants. But if you know what you're doing more in depth, you know exactly what to measure out. You mix in your first nutrient, then you stir that in before you go any further. Now, we mix in our A. We got the Vitalize fully stirred in. So now that we did our Vitalize, we mixed it in. We did the A, we mixed it in. Here's the B. What do? That's right, we mix it in. Finally, we do the start R. And again, it's just for this week. So the next feeding, we're going to move on to the C4. I like to get a little bit of juice in there just to make sure every little drop comes out. Nope. There you have it, humans. You got your nutrients mixed up using mills specifically. And again, be sure to follow the instructions of whatever nutrients you're buying. But as of the mills, we added the Vitalize, we mixed it, we did the A, we mixed it, B, mixed it, then the start R, and guess what? We mixed it. So, now our plants are ready for their feeding frenzy. But, a very important step, humans, that you want to keep in mind. Now, I went to Earth and I got a very nice meter. This is Blue Lab, a company from Earth, not a sponsor. You should be. Blue Lab meter tells you the pH level, the nutrients level, including the EC, which is the electric conductivity. We'll get into that in a later video. And then your temperature. You really don't want this to be too warm or too cold. Your plants will not eat it. If you can't afford the Blue Lab meter, because it is kind of pricey on Earth, no worries. There's cheaper versions. They do the same thing. So you want your nutrients to be at a pH of 6.0. Now the good thing with this stage of the mill's nutrients and the water we use here on the spaceship, it's usually right around there. As you can see, this is 6.1. That's not a big deal. You can go as high as 6.2, even push it to 6.3 if your previous feeds have been closer to 6.0. But a 6.0 pH is the exact pH that your plants need to convert those nutrients, liquid, into a usable food for them. So be sure that your nutrients are pH balanced at 6.0 to 6.2 minimum, or else your plants will not eat. Let's feed these plants. Now, here we are with a finished product, feeding our lovely plants. Look how beautiful and happy they are. So, this is very important when it comes to feeding your plants. You want to saturate all of the cocoa. Mostly focus on the root zone at the base of the stem. Don't get too much on the stem. You don't want to drown it. Now, as you can see, a lot of that cocoa is starting to float. We gave it a couple rounds before we started this video for this section, but mostly to show you one of the most important parts that you want during feeding of your plants. You want runoff. You want the nutrients that you feed through the top to start flowing out of the bottom. And then what I like to use is this earth vacuum, and then I suck up all the runoff until it stops running off. Got to be very careful though. If you have any roots exposed, you don't want to suck those up. So as you can see, it's starting to run off. So I'm going to finish feeding these girls. I'm going to vacuum up the runoff, and then I'm going to feed it to another plant because no waste. So that's pretty much all we got for you today. This was Thoth and AI running you through a little trimming, little nutrients. So join us for the next video. We'll be back very soon.
Goodbye.